Everybody, welcome back to another episode of Shifty's 49ers Talk. In today's episode, I am going to give you my NFL power rankings heading into week 14 of the NFL season. As usual, I'm going to do my bottom 5 teams first, and then we're going to get into my top 10 teams. There are a number of changes this week compared to last week, and I think we all know who the new number 1 team is going to be. Spoiler alert. Well, there's a lot to talk about, guys, so let's not waste any time and let's jump right in. And getting into my bottom 5 teams, and starting at 28th overall, 5th from the bottom, we have the Arizona Cardinals. They are 3-10 on the year. Last week, they had a really nice win against the Pittsburgh Steelers. That game was a little bit weird and wacky. The weather caused all kinds of delays. Kenny Pickett got hurt. But at the end of the day, you get a win on the road in a place like Pittsburgh. That's always a positive in my books. The Cardinals move up 2 places from last week. Kyler Murray has really just brought a spark to this team, and they're not going to be a super easy out. And the 49ers, we're going to see them in a couple weeks, and we have to be on our A game because we struggle sometimes with mobile quarterbacks like a guy like Kyler Murray. Now, coming in at number 29 in my power rankings, 4th from the bottom, we have the New York Jets. They're 4-8 on the year. They lost to the Atlanta Falcons. I was tempted to put them a little bit lower, but then I saw the other teams lower and I just couldn't do it. The Jets, great defense, really good special teams. The offense is one of the worst in NFL history. That quarterback room is a mess. There's all kinds of issues going on in New York. The worst thing that could have obviously happened to this team was Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, and now this team just can't do anything right offensively. And it's weird to say that because, look, they have an established offensive coordinator in Nathaniel Hackett. They have some good weapons in Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall. They have some other guys there too, and it's just a little bit shocking just how bad they are. The Jets, number 29 in my rankings. And coming in at number 30, we have the Washington Commanders. They are 4-8 on the year. They've lost maybe 4 games in a row, I believe, and got absolutely trounced by the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins are a very good team, so there's not necessarily any shame in losing that game, but just the way that it happened, they were just terrible. So, Washington Commanders moving down 2 spots compared to last week. And at number 31 in my rankings, 2nd from the bottom, we have the Carolina Panthers. They're 1-11. They lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was a close game, and they actually move up out of my bottom spot. I'm going to tell you why. The Panthers really showed some fight. In their first game without Frank Reich, I think this team is, look, they're not going to win many games, and there aren't that many games left, but I just love to see the fight. I love to see them putting up some points, at least, and it's good to see that defense play a little bit better. They gave up 21 points. J.C. Horn, really nice game, and I think there are some pieces there that they can build with. I'd like to see just a little bit more from Bryce Young to be convinced about him. And coming in at bottom of my power rankings, 32 overall, we have the New England Patriots. They are 2-10 on the year. They actually moved down to my bottom spot. They had a loss to the LA Chargers. That game was 6-0. What a dreadful game of football that was. The Patriots, look, you got to give credit. The defense obviously played really, really well to hold that Charger offense to only 6 points, but the Patriots offense is just, it's almost offensive to watch. Bailey Zappi, not the guy. Mac Jones, clearly not the guy. The Patriots going to have a top 2-3 pick. You have to figure they're going to go quarterback there because Jones clearly is not the guy there. Bill Belichick, it's one of those things, and I've said this week after week after week, but it's just looking more and more like it was maybe Tom Brady who really carried that team all those years. Really disappointed in how bad the Patriots have been this year. There you have it, guys. I do have a couple of dishonorable mentions, however. First off, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, we have the Tennessee Titans, and we have the New York Giants. Should any of these teams struggle next weekend, these teams could absolutely find themselves in the bottom 5. They are not safe. And coming up next, you guys, we are going to get into my top 10 teams in the NFL headed into week 14. And kicking off my top 10 is a team that is new to my top 10, and we have the Green Bay Packers. They are 6-6 on the year, and they just had a really nice win over the Kansas City Chiefs. Never an easy thing to do to beat Kansas City, even when you're at home in some freezing cold weather, but great job by Green Bay. Jordan Love looking really good these last few weeks. The defense stepping up and making some nice plays. What I love to see most are these receivers are making some big time plays for the offense too, down the field. Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Tucker Kraft, these guys are really just doing a great job helping out their quarterback. And that's what Jordan Love needs. He can't do it all by himself. He's just too young, too inexperienced to do that. The defense really backing him up. And all of this without Jair Alexander and Aaron Jones, who might arguably be your two best players. Really impressive job there by Mike LaFleur in Green Bay, and they are very suddenly well within the playoff hunt in the NFC. And at number 9 in my power rankings, we have the Houston Texans moving up one spot compared to last week. You look at the Texans, they had a very solid win over the Denver Broncos. The Denver Broncos had won 4 or 5 games in a row, and Houston able to shut them down. Now, it was a relatively close game. You had guys like Jimmy Ward making a big play towards the end. CJ Stroud just keeps doing his thing. The one bummer, though, is that Tank Dell is out for the rest of the year, a really bad leg injury, so that's a bummer because he was having such a great year, great chemistry, great connection with CJ Stroud. They do have some other weapons there, but it just makes things that much more difficult. But the Houston Texans, one of the really fun up-and-coming teams in the NFL. And at number 8 in my power rankings, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. They are 8-4 on the year. I actually had them going down a spot, and that's because they lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. And remember, there is no Joe Burrow out there. Not only that, Trevor Lawrence leaves the game with an injury. It sounds like it's not that serious, but looks like he could miss maybe 2-3 games, and suddenly the AFC South is wide open. Now, I do think the Jacksonville Jaguars should still be a playoff team, considering the AFC isn't quite what it was even compared to maybe a couple of years ago. And they have weapons all over the place. Josh Allen, the edge rusher, is a monster. But overall, losing Trevor Lawrence not going to make things easy, and Indianapolis and Houston are right on the tails of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And at number 7 in my power rankings, 8-4 as well, we have the Kansas City Chiefs, moving down 4 spots compared to last week. Now look, Green Bay are a surging team, and I do have them now at number 10 in my rankings, but Kansas City losing that game is not something you would have expected to have seen. You have, of course, Mahomes, Travis Kelce. The Chiefs defense has been playing really well all year long. A little bit surprised at just how well Jordan Love was able to play against them. Kansas City, and it's something that I've said, and they've been consistently in my top 5 teams, deservedly so, but they just don't feel like the same team that we've seen recently. It just feels like something's really missing. Maybe just that legitimate number 1 wide receiver that Kansas City just really needs to open up the offense a little bit more, but they're still a very solid team, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them back in the win column next week. And at number 6 in my power rankings, we have the Detroit Lions, 9-3 on the year. They're actually up 2 spots compared to last week. They had a win over the New Orleans Saints. Now, the Lions are a good team. They're a very good team. Are they a great team? I don't think so. You look at the teams that they've beaten, not the best teams in the NFL by any stretch of the imagination. They actually could find themselves to be the number 1 seed in the NFC simply because of the strength of their schedule. They don't really play any top teams at all for the rest of the season. So Lions could find themselves maybe a 14-3, 13-4, and who knows, that could be the good enough for the number 1 seed. Not convinced by their defense at all. The offense, mostly hot, but there can be some cold moments. The defense just can't really get a stop. They were up by 21-0 over the Saints. They give up that lead, and against the Saints team that eventually lost Derek Carr. So Detroit, again, think you're a good team, just not a great team. And before we get into my top 5 teams, let me give you just a couple of teams for honorable mentions that if they play well next weekend, they could find themselves in my top 10. You have the Indianapolis Colts, big win there with Gardner Minshew, did a really good job getting that win. Then you have the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Buffalo Bills are a really interesting team because You look at their record 6-6, and it's not great, but they just do have a lot of potential. And I think on their day, if Josh Allen is at his best, they're going to be a really difficult team to beat. One team in the NFC to keep a little bit of an eye out for are the LA Rams, playing really well with Matt Stafford. They've won 3 in a row. They're now 6-6 and actually ahead of the Seahawks in the NFC West. So just keep an eye out because look, Sean McVay has got that offense rolling. Cooper Kupp could be back soon. The defense isn't playing awfully. So that's going to be really interesting to see down the stretch. Remember, the 49ers, we play the Rams week 18, last game of the regular season. And coming up next, guys, I have my top 5 teams in the NFL heading into week 14. And at number 5, we have the Dallas Cowboys. They are 9-3 on the year. They move up 1 spot on my power rankings compared to last week. The Dallas Cowboys had a really nice win against the Seattle Seahawks on Thursday Night Football. Here is the issue with the Dallas Cowboys. They haven't beat a team with a winning record. Against the really bad teams, the teams that they're supposed to beat, they do beat them, and they beat them big time. Against the big boys in the NFC, against the top teams in the NFL, they just can't hang. Now, they actually have a huge opportunity this Sunday against the Philadelphia Eagles. If they can win that game, potentially they move atop the NFC East. Now, the teams will be equal on record should the Cowboys beat the Eagles. I don't really know the tiebreakers there, but also that would really help out the 49ers because then we become the number 1 seed. But getting back to it, Dallas Cowboys playing really good football. Dak Prescott is playing at a great level. We just need to see it against some of the elite defenses in the NFL. Cowboys defense, they're able to make big splash plays. Micah Parsons doing his thing. Deron Bland, terrible first half, comes back and has a great second half. Really up and down performance. Overall, though, I think the Cowboys, they just need to prove it against a top team. And now coming in at number 4 in my rankings, we have the Baltimore Ravens. They're at 9-3 as well. Baltimore had a bye week last week, and their position has unchanged since last week in my power rankings. Look, I think the Baltimore Ravens are a really solid team. You look at their defense, it is actually number 1 in the NFL in points allowed. The offense is doing just enough to get things going. Lamar Jackson, of course, able to make plays with his legs, doing a really solid job throwing the football this year. There is no Mark Andrews. I believe he's going to be out for the rest of the year. Could Zach Ertz be headed to his way to Baltimore? That, I think, is a match that just makes so much sense for both parties. To me, the Ravens are a really good team, and they're going to be a really tough out for anybody, which the 49ers, Christmas Day, we will be taking on the Baltimore Ravens, so that will definitely be a fun matchup. And at number 3 in my rankings, we have the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins, 9-3. They just had a big-time win against the Washington Commanders. The Dolphins move up 2 spots in my rankings. They move up above the Baltimore Ravens. I think that would be a really fantastic matchup to see. We saw the matchup maybe, was it a year or 2 ago, and that game was just really, really fun. But I think that with the Ravens on a bye week, it's kind of hard to move them up or down. Dolphins, really, really impressive. The offense, Devon Achane, he's back. He's doing his thing. Tyreek Hill just can't be stopped in that offense. And the defense playing better. And if they can keep getting a little bit better and a little bit better under Vic Fangio, then that's going to make the Dolphins just a really, really tough team to beat. They are a little bit like the Cowboys and the Lions, where you'd like to see them win a game against some of the top competition in the NFL before you can really crown them. They will have some opportunities, though, because they will be headed to the playoffs, no question about that, and that I cannot wait to see. And at number 2 in my power rankings, we have the Philadelphia Eagles. They are 10-2 on the season. They moved down 1 spot, and they lost to the 49ers, and they lost badly. Let's just kind of talk about the Eagles a little bit. I think when you look at that matchup, the first quarter, the Eagles dominated, but here was the key for that. The Eagles dominated every statistical category. The one thing where they didn't necessarily dominate was on the scoreboard. It was only 6-0. They had 2 long drives into the red zone, and they had to settle for 3 and settle for 3. Come the second quarter, the Niners, then after our first 2 drives stall out, we go and score 6 straight touchdowns, which is just ridiculous to do that against an Eagles defense, which statistically isn't great, but I think there is a lot of talent on that defense. But to do that in Philadelphia, not an easy thing to do, especially after not being able to get anything going in the first quarter. The Eagles, they do have some issues they got to fix. You look at a lot of names in their secondary, Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Kevin Byard, but they're just not playing to that elite level. And also something that I think is really, really hurting them is the play of their linebackers. They were missing Zach Cunningham. They have guys coming in and out off the practice squad. They did just sign Shaquille Leonard. Does he have anything left in the tank? The Colts seemed relatively happy to just let him go, so that remains to be seen. Look, the Eagles are still a really, really good team, and that's why they're number 2 in my power rankings. However, I'm not going to lie to you, it was awesome to just go into Lincoln Financial Field and just destroy them. It was a thing of beauty. And that leads us to the team number 1 in my power rankings this week, the San Francisco 49ers. We are 9-3 on the year. And of course, we move up 1 spot compared to last week. And just what a sweet victory. Things did not look good to start the game. Offensively, we went 3 and out. Then the next drive, I think we maybe went 3 and out again. The first 2 drives, I believe we got a total of maybe -2 yards or something to that effect. And the Eagles were driving the football offensively. But the great thing was we were able to hold them to 3. We were only down 6-0 after arguably the worst quarter of football maybe that we've played all season long. Start the second quarter, we score a touchdown, and then suddenly we're winning. And after being dominated for the first quarter, right there, bam, we take the lead. And we never looked back. We did have some interesting moments in the game. Of course, the whole Dre Greenlaw incident with their head of security guy, that was a complete mess. I think the defense did play pretty solid. What I do have to note is a couple of players. Ambry Thomas, I thought, played really, really well. Diamador Lenore played well. Mooney Ward, the secondary, played really well. If you look at it, Jalen Hurts had a good amount of time back there in the pocket and just really had nowhere to go with the football, which speaks to the really good play of the secondary. Javon Kinlaw, 2 sacks. Kalia Davis on the D-line. First game, regular season game as a rookie, as a professional football player, gets a sack. We were able to make Hurts uncomfortable at times, forced him to roll out to his left, to his right, have to throw the ball away quite a bit. But overall, just a great, well-rounded game by the 49ers. We win in absolutely convincing fashion. Deebo Samuel was next level. The whole team played great. I just can't tell you how much I enjoyed that game. But there you have it, guys. Those are my power rankings heading into week 14 in the NFL. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to drop your power rankings there, or whether you agree with me, disagree with me. Always leads to some good conversations. And if you enjoy the content, drop a like on the video. Feel free to share it on social media. Subscribe to the channel. And we're going to have some more content coming later this week. We'll do a preview of the Seahawks game. And of course, we'll be streaming that game live here on Shifty's 49ers Talk. That's going to be a whole lot of fun. I'm going to head on out of here, guys. But before I do, I'm going to say 2 things. The butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.